All right, by the way, for those that don't know, for those that haven't been a part of it, for those that live under a stupid rock, this right here is the Melk. Okay, the Melk baby, the Melk daddy, Milk Me Daddy, known by several names. A mustache that is both beautiful, yet shows a softer side of Melky. Um, dang. Dang. Follow up. If you don't know anything about Melky, you stream, you have YouTube videos, you actually make really good content. I think we've reacted to one of your videos, and you've been on the stream once. You've made some dang good content. I am guilty of watching your content offline. I actually just watch your content. I watch almost no engineering content, like zero, and you might be the only person I watch offline.
That's an honor. Thank you.
It's you and Aspen Gold. Like, that's it. Definitely not Armorant, though.
No, that's a private one. That's a private.
I definitely don't watch that one. Watching. No, never watched it. Probably not going to watch it.
The Twitch algo.
Not going to happen. By the way, great work on the Twitch algorithm. I just love the amount of anime and bobs and VTubers I get. Really just reminds me who the people are that watch my stream and that they're all degenerates. It's just
hey, you know,
daily.
I'm the ML guy, so I'm responsible for that algo. So you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. I'm giving you the content that I know you really want.
All right, anyway, so here we go. So we found this post. You actually found this post and you linked it to me, and it says, anyone who tried to like Golang and tried it many, many times but still don't like it compared to TypeScript, ? And this is about to be a pretty big thesis, as you can see. 32 individual points. I would have went with 34 and called it Rule 34 of Golang. They didn't do it, though. You know, I can understand. They're not very good at the internet.
Yeah,
so given the hype...
Catch on.
You going to interrupt me like that?
Sorry. So I'm excited, okay? Tell me a second time.
I'm excited, too.
I didn't read the pamphlet.
Okay, just remember we had the whole timing and all the jokes pre-planned, and now they're all ruined. Every last one of them. Given the hype around Golang and too many Medium posts highlighting so many Node/Python companies are migrating from Node/Python to Go and got a 4x and a 5x and all the wonderful things described about it, I've been exploring Golang since a few years now, and even though I know all about it, I just don't like the language itself, and I'm really, really surprised that people say Go as a language is better than TypeScript, syntax/type system, etc. Whys? To me, I feel the exact opposite. TypeScript has super advanced type system, super advanced, to which Go does not even stand. There are many things I never liked in Go as a warning. Long list below. Okay, so before we even address it, Melky, I would love to hear a couple things you do not like about Go.
A couple things I don't like about Go? Okay. But so first of all, this person, the TypeScript community, I love them. I love how he says, although there was a 4x, 5x performance, Go still sucks. And it's like, I know everything about Go. And I just found that opening statement, I knew I was going to be in for a treat for this.
I agree with all these things. I definitely, when it says, I know all about it. It's pretty tough to know everything.
But he knows everything, Prime. He knows everything. For me, the few things I think Go lacks, obviously, and this article goes through them. No enums, like that's, you can't argue that. No enums. That one is a stinky one.
But can we just tee out for just one quick second there?
One quick second. Granted.
He is comparing Go to TypeScript. TypeScript is not known for amazing enums.
Don't add logic into this article, okay?
You're right.
Don't do this right now.
TypeScript has moderately better enum support.
Super advanced type system, okay?
You don't know shit about the type system.
But the one gotcha that I actually agree with this article, and it's actually the first point there, is the nil pointers, and there's no checking of nil pointers in Go. That one, I've been caught by it. And yeah, I agree. I agree. My hands are down. Everything vertical is horizontal. I agree.
Okay. I think I can actually join you on this one. I'm really hoping that with the generic introduction and all that, we can start seeing an option type be put into Go, because I think that would effectively remove all need for nil. You wouldn't have nil anymore. You would just always have an option type. And so I'm hoping that can somehow exist. My guess is that it still maybe can't. We might need a bit more, but something like a maybe would be fantastic, and I'd absolutely love to see that.
Yeah, but I don't want to get caught with this. And there's been times where I've didn't instantiate, a map or something, and then try to call a method on it. Everything looked great and gravy on my side, and then once it's deployed, it's like, wait, come on, what are you calling this method on? This doesn't exist, you idiot. I'm like, touche, touche.
Zero. So I completely agree on that. Maps being nillable, I feel like is a very confusing, just like initial topic, because then my brain's thinking inside. I have to then ask the question: when I pass a map, do I copy it? Like everything else, you always pass by reference, unless if it's this choice though of interface /array/map just feels very arbitrary for me. And so I do agree with this whole nil problem, which is really just more of a problem with pointers in general, is that you just have to think about it too much, and thus shit happens.
It does.
Okay.
All the time.
All right. So let's go to number 2. Now, I feel like this is a very interesting one, which is error handling or lack thereof at every line is insanely painful to see. And if you forget to check any error, then the code could blow up and the compiler will not stop you at all. So give me some thoughts on this one.
Okay. Please, I was gonna wait till you if you want to go this, but this is like the classic why Go sucks argument, the error handling. This anytime you go to like a super Rust dev or a TypeScript or a front end, whoever, they're like, well, Go sucks because of the error handling, because it doesn't exist. My whole philosophy on this is, first of all, this statement's not true. There is error handling.
All right, hold on. Before you go, I just want to do one quick thing. I'm sorry to cut you off right as you're climaxing there.
I was so climaxed. Oh my god. I have to take a cold shower now.
You better. You better. Hold on. There we go. I'm going to put bad, good, okay. So I'm going to give people 3 options. Quickly start going. Okay, Melky, start saying your opinion so that it will affect this poll. Go.
Okay, so error handling in Go exists. I think the main problem people see is twofold. One is that it's up to the programmer, the engineer, to actually, handle the error value, which sometimes you can call a function, you can ignore the error value. And I think that's the main point that people complain about. Like, well, I can just underscore and I can forget about it. And hence there's no error handling. But I think that's kind of like a moot point, because the value exists. It's you are making the conscious decision to not handle that error. It's not that Go is not providing you the ability to handle the error. Is you're making the decision, the engineer, the architect, the maestro of your code, to make that decision. I think that's the argument that people don't really absorb into their their sponge follicles. And when I write Go, I like handling my errors the way I want to. Do I want to panic? Maybe. Do I want to log it? Yeah, absolutely. It's up to me. I like that control. I like that granularity of, doing what I want with the error. And then the subset of that argument is the if error equals nil. And people are like, well, I have to always repeat it. And the argument there is like, I can see that it's annoying, but in Go, errors are values. The same way you're gonna handle any sort of constant, any sort of declaration, whatever, that's the way errors are. And hey, I'm looking at you. Everyone here writes code with lots of errors. So you're gonna be handling lots of if error does not equal nil. All right. So suck it up. It's beautiful. It's great. And handle your errors properly, because it's really good for a good engineer.
So, okay. So I'm actually on your team for most of this.
Yes.
And yes. I think the thing that's really missing from his argument is if I jump over here into Node for a quick second and I go like this, JSON.parse, open squirrely brace, single quote, end. I'm going to parse that. That errors. Nothing in it says that that's going to error. You don't know it's going to error. It throws an error and changes your control flow completely. Whereas if you do the same thing in Go, do a little bit of unmarshalling, marshalling, whatever the hell it's called. I always forget which direction's which. I have to read the description. It has an error as a part of the whole situation, so that did this thing just not, like, was I able to even be able to read this thing or not? Whereas with TypeScript, you don't get any error handling. You get error catching, which is like the opposite of error handling, right? It is just like, I hope I have a try catch in a place that makes sense for whatever I'm doing, right? Because it just might not.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly, and that's the argument I see, especially from a TypeScript forum, like a subreddit. It's like you can have the same behavior, the same like level of negligence, if you will, in types with not having proper try catches, right? It's like the same sort of underlying root behavior. If this person's saying the lack of error handling or lack of error control, whatever you want to put, like it still exists in TypeScript. You know what I mean? It still exists.
Yeah.
It's up to you to design your system with try catches or handling the error values. Like if you are a negligent engineer, you're going to be negligently handling your errors. And I think that to me is like the TLDR. And I like error handling. I think it's one of the core concepts and core protocols needed for a good engineer. It's like, how do you handle these? How do you make sure your application runs smoothly, gracefully? Does it panic? Do you want it to? That's all like error handling. And that's like the branch of thinking that I think people are, they don't jump in.
So I know we probably beat this thing to death, but I do want to do one last thing, which is let's just take something like let's take this line right here, right? I have this beautiful little piece of template code right here that's going to create a new template. It's going to throw a nice little func map on it, and then it's going to hit it with the parse glob, and that thing's going to return my templates if I get it, or an error. Now I get to do this nice little line right here, and if I don't have an error, I get to keep on going, and I have this. Now, if we were to do the equivalent in TypeScript, I'd actually have to do something that looks more like this. Let temples, is actually going to be an undefined or, the type, and it equals undefined. Then I'm going to have to try. Then I'm going to have to catch the error.
Yep.
And then I'm going to have to do all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to have to put this in here. And, it's going to look something more like this. As opposed to by having the error as a value, I don't have to do this like dance, where I have to actually put the value outside the try catch because it's its own block and its own scope, and then I can define it there, and then I have to I find this to be just the world's most annoying version of handling stuff, right? Like this
agree.
is super. This is like 1,000 times more annoying than this, and I got a nice little remap for that, so I can just I can just hit him with the leader EE and boom.
Yep.
Error equals nil. Return it. What was that? What was that? You want another one? You want another one?
Give me another one. Give me all the errors.
Another one. Dude, I can give it to you all day, baby girl. Like, I know these things. And so for me, it's just like that is so much less annoying than whatever the alternative they're suggesting is, which is to get try-catched on. Right?
Yeah, and I honestly think the try-catch actually presents more opportunities to not handle the error. Because when you call this templates function, if you read the docs, you're going to return probably an interface and then an actual error value by the function contract definition. You don't have that in JavaScript or TypeScript. You actually have to create a try catch yourself. But if you read the documentation of the functions you're writing from a library, it's going to return an error. So you can handle that. So I actually think it gives you more opportunities to write a proper system.
Yeah. Judo says global error handling isn't. All errors are unique. So this is probably where my one thing I will say about try catch that is nice is that if you have if you want to go like the lazy programming route and you just have that if there is any error, I'm just going to respond with my server with a 500. Try catch actually makes that very, very simple. And so I can totally see why you'd like that. Same with the CLI tool. I just want a CLI tool that the moment I encounter an error, I'm going to print out the error and then exit with a 1. That's totally doable in Node. Very, very easy. You just do a process on uncaught exceptions or uncaught or unhandled rejections or whatever it is. I'm not talking about like an Arch user and dates, but I'm talking about like exceptions and rejections here. And so that is very useful. I will say that is very, very useful to have. And it's nice for a very narrow band of items. But for the most part, that's not my experience. I was going to say,
Yeah, I was going to say I actually completely agree with you. But the one thing and we had a discussion yesterday when we were talking online, it's like, I haven't faced that situation where something like that makes more sense in terms of handling that, blanket error handling, if you will.
Yeah.
Similar to how I was talking about Zod and I just never faced that particular thing, which maybe we can get into in a future time. But yeah, I agree with that. But I personally haven't seen a situation myself where I'm just going to globally handle all my errors.
Yeah. I actually want to make a Zod competitor. I have a very good idea in my brain. I'm very excited about it, and I'm going to do it.
What's the name? Give me the name. It all matters about the name. If the name's not swinging,
I don't have a good name. Truly, I don't have a good name, but my idea was either to take protobuf definitions
Oh
or
yeah.
TypeScript definitions, either or, and generate validation functions that are all inlined and use a dot separator to look up everything. Because then you get much better performance and it doesn't have to do these manual crawls, and Zod is just really, really slow. And so you define your types, and then that generates validation as opposed to generating validation and then creating your types from it.
That sounds awesome. And I think the I'm actually excited you're going to do with
protobufs.
protobuf.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be cool.
I think that'd be a dynamite thing, and then you just get that right out.
Mhm.
Anyways, just a thought I've been having. Had it in the shower yesterday. Not a big deal. Anyways, number 3, no union or sum types is also a big problem.
I mean, they exist. It's just super messy. The union typing in Go is it's
I didn't
very
even
it
know
gets
that
very
they had union
exotic.
typing. I didn't even realize they had. Do they? Is it just like some version of the C?
Yeah, it's not like it's not built in. There's nothing that you can actually union. You have to kind of hack your way through it.
Okay.
It's not pretty. It's doable, but not built into the language. So in a sense, number 3 is kind of a valid point. There is a way to get around it, but it's not very intuitive.
All right, so for those that don't know what a union type or why those things are good, specifically in strict typed languages or strong typing, whatever you want to call it, whenever you have a list of more than one type that simply can't be represented or shouldn't be represented as an interface, a sum type is very, very nice. You can say, hey, this thing is a string, or it's a number, or it's this object, right? So you can think of whenever you do merge deep, really its argument is a union type. It's like it's every type one, and you have to kind of figure out how you want to handle each typing situation. So it can be very, very nice to have a nice union type for those kind of things. But what they're not mentioning in this little rant we got going on here is that TypeScript also handles, I know I've showed people this, they handle their crap very bad. Crappy union, right, equals string or number. Okay, there we go. We got ourselves, that's a union type, right? So that means if I have a const A, which is going to be a string array, I can take that and I can create a function called add to crappy union, and this thing takes in a crappy union, and we're going to add something to it, okay? And I'm going to take A, and I'm going to push in 1, which is bad, 69. Nice try, Copilot. And that means I can add to crappy union A, because A, in their book, is actually a part of it, but it ain't part of it. It ain't part of crappy union. This is bad. Why would you allow this to happen, right? And so this is just a crappy union. And so TypeScript, though having sum types, has the worst version of sum types, which is a non-type enforcement sum type. So it's like you can do that, and that's totally type safe, but I would argue this is completely untype safe and crazy. Now, every single time I show this, people are always like, you'd never do that. Yes, you will do that when you have a list of more than one object. You can totally have this happen, and then now it will fall into every single array that is some subversion of it can fall into crappy union and be used there, right? So it's like I don't think they have. I don't think TypeScript has good sum types either. I think they have terrible sum types. It doesn't save you at all.
Yep, I hated that example so much because it's like that just completely throws off like strict typing. If you can have that, like that just irks me.
It does. I get a little irked myself. All right, Number 4, poor OOP implementation using receiver functions instead of just having proper OOP. If that's what they wanted to enable in the first place.
Which is not. Like they didn't want to enable OOP in the first place. This, when I got to point 4, I think this is when things start to click. I'm like, I think this is just like a rant. Like this is straight up. Like this person is just like trying to find as many things to say about Go that aren't even true. Like poor OOP-ish implementation. Like Go doesn't have OOP implementation. That's not how Go wanted to be built. It didn't want to do that. Hence, it has interfaces. Hence, it has other ways of inheritance or not inheritance, but
they have like property inheritance. But that's it.
Property inheritance. Yeah, thank you. Property inheritance. Like I couldn't find my way to really agree with this point. This is one of those points that I think is like just completely invalid because it doesn't make sense. Go wasn't built this way. Go wasn't designed this way, and Go is not used this way at all.
Yeah. And the thing is that I love classes. When I say class, I mean a struct with methods hanging off of it. I think that's beautiful. I don't want inheritance. Every year I try it a couple times a year, and I hope that I do it right. And every single time I've used inheritance in the last couple years, I've regretted using it, like almost every single time. And so, I mean, there are some situations that people say is really nice, like HTML element for web components you have to inherit from and then create a
Mhm.
class from so you can have your own components. Was that the best way to do things? Maybe that was the best way to do things. I can't say it was the best way or not. But nonetheless, that just happens. And so I don't really care for OOP that much. I like interfaces. You
Yep.
can do most OOP patterns. The strategy pattern is just interfaces plus concrete classes, right? So you can
Yep.
totally do that. So it does have an OOP design pattern in Go without all that, I don't, it's just, this seems like a really weird one to say it doesn't have my version of what I want. And by the way,
Yeah.
classes and pointer receivers are identical other than how they're typed. Like to say that there's somehow that these are somehow different. It's just a struct with a method hanging off of it. Like I don't know where you're going with this one. It
I think
sounds a little funny.
Yeah, and I think the whole aspect of inheritance and like the discussion of inheritance versus composition, like the Go wants to be simple. Go wants to be very, very easy to use. And in my opinion, when I kind of see that, like I think of like not too tightly coupled code. And so if there's a change anywhere in the class, well, I think what Go wants to do is like we don't want you to go and change all of that, definition, those methods, and go through your code. Like just slap the interface on it, change that, and then that's good. That's your layer that you really need to change. Everything else you can kind of leave the same way. Your client, you can leave it. It doesn't need inheritance. Like for me, actually, I see this point as like an actual plus for
Yeah.
Go. If I'm being honest, like I actually think like, okay, yeah, that's great. It doesn't have OOP, it doesn't have all the struggles with that. You just have composition and you're happy, you're laughing, you're good.
All right, next one. Implicit interface implementation means you have to read the entire declaration of the file to just to know which interface is implemented instead of just allowing X implements Y and Z, like every other language. I'm gonna take the lead on this one. So first off, not every language works that way. So every other language is actually just fundamentally an untrue statement. But I will say that I think Rust's is probably the best version of this, and I do agree with his overall point, which is there's not an explicit point in the code that says my struct implements this behavior, and then you have to implement the following functions. They can go in any order. You're going to have to find them. Like, I agree, a little messy, not kind of the way I like to do it. Rust does instead, if you want to implement, say, the into trait, which is, like a Golang interface, you have to say impl into for class name. And so then in that little block, you implement that interface's requirement. And so for me, that feels good, right? That feels right, which also means that if you have conflicting names, it chooses the first trait that's implemented, if I'm not mistaken, which is also strange. But nonetheless, I just like that version better. It just feels more correct than any other one. But I think TypeScript having to say it implements it at the tippity top is not fun. I find that to be super annoying. And plus, you also don't have to do this in TypeScript, like at all.
Yeah, I agree. It is mess, especially if you're first coming on to Go and you see an interface and then you see like a struct that has maybe not all the methods or like it's not a one-to-one map. It can get confusing, and I've been caught by that. Instantiating clients and either missing a method or whatever. I can see the point that it's like not convenient and it's not explicit, and I think that makes it a little annoying. But I think this is like I'm gonna admit this may be a biased way for me to say this, but once you get used to it, I think it's fairly easy. But I think that's a very bad argument. I'll admit, like that's not a strong argument on my side. I've been using Go. I think I'm just adapted to the methods and kind of that. So
it's also very easy though. At the same time, by the way, look, I just did I literally did the exact thing that he said sucks right now in TypeScript. I have a class called foo with bar. I have an interface named bar. I have a function that takes in a bar. I handed a foo. Foo never implemented bar.
Yeah.
Checkmate, atheist.
Checkmate.
I'm just saying, it's not even required in TypeScript. Like, most people don't even do that in TypeScript, right? All right. 6, 0 default values do not play well with JSON serialization and deserialization and are a source of many, many bugs. Workaround is to convert a field to a pointer and then to do a nil check, but this means you have to convert all the struct keys to pointers as you can receive an entire empty struct. So how will you identify what was set and what was not set without all structs being set to pointer and doing nil checks? It just never ends. I would just follow up with it's no different in TypeScript. You have to do a question mark instead of a star.
Right. Okay. So I
Okay,
was
are you
actually
confused about this one too?
I'm actually happy you said that because I was a little confused. I was like, okay, maybe this is a valid point because when you do like unmarshal something, you don't have that guarantee that all the fields in your struct are going to be populated, right? So you will have these like nil pointers potential, these nil values, right? And I was thinking like, okay, I could see this potentially being valid, but then I forgot that this is like a TypeScript versus Go article. And so I went back and I'm like, well, how would I do this in TypeScript? And it's kind of the exact same way. You have to have a layer of checking if that property exists.
You have the exact same thing. Not only that, but that's the whole reason Zod exists. Remember, you just said earlier about Zod. Zod checks to make sure the struct that you got out of JavaScript is the thing you wanted.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, good. But then I was like, wait a minute. What does TypeScript do again?
Yeah, Rust has the same problem. They just force you to use options. So you have to have an option, this thing, right? All right, number 7, cannot access keys of a struct dynamically using a variable, which is so easy in TypeScript, also very securely as well due to powerful type system. Okay, that second point is completely invalid. And in Go, one has to convert the struct to a map or use reflect boilerplate code just to access keys of a struct using a variable. There are a small set of problems where I can understand this is useful. Very, very small kind of set of problems. Like, how about this one? Here's a good example of it. You have yourself a CSV you wish to parse, and it has, say, 10 fields. So you pass in the 10 fields you want to be parsed, and you have 5 different object types, which may include some set of those fields. You would need effectively a dynamic way to be able to look up those fields and get out those values. So that is like, there you go. There to me is a valid argument for why I like this behavior.
Wait, so but I actually think I don't truly understand this point then, because what does he mean by like accessing the values of struct dynamically? Like,
So
why?
here, I'll give you a quick example right here. So let's just say we have a function that's like print out properties, right? And I got an object that's an any, whoopsies, and I have a filter list. So now I can do something like this. If, let's see, if a filter or const prop equals object.prop, here const to print equals this thing. If prop, then to print push prop, and then I can just console log prop, right? If we wanted to do it all on one line. Prop. There we go. Or sorry, to print. There we go. Oopsies. It's not that way. It's object.keys. There we go. And okay. As key of type of object.
Oh yeah.
Right? Did I get that right? Oh my goodness. Why you gotta be like this? Why you gotta be like this?
Advanced TypeScript, baby.
Okay.
Team DHH.
Oh, we're gonna get there. I'm gonna get it. There we go. Okay, I got it. So there you go. Advanced TypeScript, key of type of object. Anyways, you can't use keys, and they don't, like when you call object.keys, you actually don't get a type out that says these are fine to access. You actually have to say this every time. It's very, very annoying. But nonetheless, this is a great example. I just wanted to print out certain properties. You can't dynamically do that easily in Go. So I think that that's fair. Well, that seems like a terrible usage of objects. I'm on your team. I'm just saying if you had a struct, if you had, like I said, if you had a CSV you need to produce, you knew what fields you wanted, you just didn't know what objects had what fields, and you just had to pipe in dynamically. Like you could imagine like a database streaming a bunch of events, and you need to take a session that has happened and pull out the behavior of whatever, right? And so what he's saying is that you have to either you have to like do some sort of struct to map thing, or do reflective boilerplate. I'm on his team. I think I get it. But there's probably other behavior that I'm missing that could also be done well. Or use a map. No, still, again, that's not a good case. Again, you could just simply have things coming back that are in the object form. You may not always get the option just use a map.
Yeah, this one, I agree.
I would just use a map, but I'm just saying you may not always get the choice to just use a map. I agree
I'll
with
use
the point.
It if it's there.
No? Nothing? You got nothing for me? That's fine. Let's move on. Melky's reading
Oh no, I was
something.
reading chat.
I know,
I was
you were
reading
so
chat.
intense. You were so intense. You completely just when you had a nil pointer exception there. It was your
Yeah,
turn. I served it to you, and you're just like,
I'm sorry. I was reading what a fellow Twitch staff said. Sounds like the author drank everything is an object Kool-Aid, and he spelled Kool-Aid wrong. So I was just hyper focused on that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Is it because he spelled Kool-Aid with a C?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Disgusting. All right. Let's see. Cannot create a new struct by picking/omitting a few keys from another struct.
Mm-hmm.
The code is never dry and go. Okay, so I do
Yep.
agree with the second point, which is the code is never dry and go, right here. But I normally just think this is probably a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I first read this, I actually kind of see the validation. Like sometimes it is a bad idea because you don't want to have like two structs that share like 3 out of the 10 fields of one struct. I can understand that. But there's also I may see like a perspective where maybe you just want a very, very niche struct that you don't want all the other fields. You don't want everything else included in the struct that you had. You want them separate. You want to use them for a very specific distinguished feature. And then you have to remake a new struct. And instead of just picking out existing fields from a bigger struct, I can kind of see that.
But hold on. How do they then define it? Right? Like they're putting it somewhere. It's not like even if you do some sort of like exclude key or some sort of magic TypeScript method that I'm sure exists, you still have to say, I want this struct without all these other fields. So it's either you provide a white or black list trying to say which ones you do or don't want, or you use the worst of them all, which is you just let TypeScript return value inference happen, and then you just get these inlined objects everywhere that has like 14 fields on them, and you have to go pass that around. Like that doesn't seem like a W. None of this, for me, this doesn't make any sense, this argument. I love the code is not dry. I get that with Go. Kind of pisses me off. I'm really hoping that 122 and 123 really takes a deep look at the standard and gives all the methods that I need, right? I want them all. Contains. Oh, I want contains so
Everything.
bad. I want them all.
Everything. Yeah. There is a way that you can make a copy, like you can declare a new struct from an existing struct. But I agree. You would have to I'm just thinking out loud. You would have to filter out all the fields you don't want, or somehow have like an empty struct that then you kind of pick the fields from another struct into the struct. But it's going to be the exact same thing. Like the behavior it's not a very smooth handling behavior at all.
No, neither handle it well.
Yeah. There's going to be problems both ways you see it.
All right. Painful JSON handling, especially deeply nested or dynamic JSON, as the JSON mapping logic inside struct string tags, where there is no autocomplete or and no compile error.
I've read this a few times. I just don't agree. I don't see painful JSON handling. I actually think even for deeply nested JSON, like I've never had a problem using the built-in like JSON library in Go. You can define everything well. I've just never had an experience where I was like, oh man, I have to use JSON Go right now. It's been fairly easy for me to just take a payload, use on Marshall, and handle like that. Like I don't understand this point, to be honest. I've never felt this way.
I honestly am just too stupid to understand the point. I actually don't even know what it's trying to say.
I think
I don't know what it means by no autocomplete or compile time or nor compile error. I don't know I honestly, are they talking about importing JSON?
I also don't understand that point. I don't get it at all. I think when you said deeply nested, I put it like when you like get a payload response from something and it's like nested, it's a nested object, and you kind of have to define like on Go, if you want to take that payload from whatever API and put into a struct, you have to create like a nested struct to handle that. That's the way I read it. When it came to the autocomplete and the no compile error, that I was just like, I don't even know what to know for that one.
Yeah,
so I just kind of skipped that part.
Yeah, I guess I don't quite understand this one because
I see
he's
a point.
reading chat again. Did you?
Yeah.
I could tell right away he's reading chat again, people.
I'm sorry, but one point someone did say is like, let's say in Go you have like your JSON tags that knows what to unmarshal, right? If you make a typo there, like I'm just reading chat because there is, maybe a valid point. If there's a typo there or something that's not right, so you don't get that field, you wouldn't know until you explicitly look at that struct after unmarshaling, right? There's nothing that tells you, hey, like this field was unmarshaled, or you didn't take this for something like that. Maybe that's what he means.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm purchasing that one.
Oh yeah.
All right. So okay, we'll give 9 a little something. I kind of get that.
Yeah.
Number 10, code littered with pointers, non-pointers, slice, capacity, interface, madness everywhere. I wouldn't put it as ever. I mean, there's some pointers. Pointer, non-pointer doesn't bother me. I don't think I ever have thought about it in Go. Just ever. Slice. Yep. I still don't even know what that means at this point. Capacity. I'm not sure. I've never passed a capacity around, so
I don't know what a capacity is. I
don't have the capacity to understand this. Okay,
zero. I'm not passing my capacity at all, man.
You keep that capacity private, Fred.
It's a nil pointer right now.
It's just a nil pointer. Interface. I get this one. It is kind of annoying to see. I mean, again, this just goes back to the sum types thing. If you could have a sum type, you wouldn't need to have interface anymore. I get it. Fine. It's not really everywhere. It's just some places. Okay, whatever. Yep. No function overloading. I don't think this is a problem. I don't think there's function overloading in TypeScript either. There's not function overloading in JavaScript.
I don't even know what function overloading is, if I'm being honest. Like
function overloading, so that's like a remnant of Java. I think you can do it in C++ as well. Maybe. I actually can't even remember, where effectively you have a class that takes in a function foo, and you can define foo multiple times depending on the argument type. So long as the signatures are unique, you can have the same function defined multiple times.
Oh, I see.
Elixir has it. But they have pattern match overloading, which is actually super cool, right? So you can just say, like, if an empty array is passed in here, execute this one. But again, no function overloading. I don't think this is necessarily a problem.
What would be the use case of using function overloading in any language? Why?
I think Elixir is very much more clear. I think Elixir makes sense. So a good version of this is in Java. Okay, I'm going Java on this one. Let's say that you have something called, like in Java, of course you have classes for everything, called, like, I don't know, quicksort, right? Quicksort. And inside there you have your public void sort, and it takes an int array, okay? And so this is what you want, but privately you need to keep track of a bunch of information. So you're gonna have something that's like a private void sort that has this, right? That actually has your high and your low and all that extra information that you're gonna want. And so that way you have your public one that behaves one certain way, and your private one that actually is the one that you would call. So you'd actually call sort.this, right? So that's what I know of as a reason why you do that, but I don't know of any other reason why. The other one people are saying function overloading for for add, right? So if you had add or max or any of those ones, but you could also just use, I know Java, disgusting. Dan's game hard.
Java.
Scarlett Johansson or Scala Johansson. But this one right here, you could also just take that and use generics to solve that problem. Like, I don't think that's a problem because generics solves it. And so it's not a real thing. All right. No ternary operator.
I mean, I agree. Like, I've used a ternary operator in JavaScript. I think it's in TypeScript and JavaScript. I like it. But I don't know. Like in Go, I don't know. I treat JavaScript and Go very differently. The no ternary operator. I guess as far as I know, there's no ternary operator in Go, or like explicit one that I'm aware of. I've never been caught by this. Like,
and if statements aren't expressions, so you can't return it from an if else, which is like what Rust does.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, the ternary operator is nice when you have to use it, but like I wouldn't say it's a necessity for a language. You know what I mean? I don't think it's really a if you don't have it in a language, it's good. It loses the value of the language itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
To me, it's not a huge one. I find it more annoying when I mean, because I try not to use ternaries just in general, just because I always, once I start using one, all of a sudden it gets a little rowdy sometimes, and I'm just like, I've made a mistake, you know, halt. And so I just try not to use them in general, but I understand this point a little bit. Like Rust has, they don't have ternary statements, but they do have like let foo equals if, I don't know, bar, then you could do like 5 else 6, right? So that would work in Rust. That's perfectly fine in Rust, and I'm okay with that. I think that would be nice to have in Go, but if statements they're if statements, they're not if expressions, and so you can't.
The way I look at ternary operators, it's very like, I guess my experience with ternary operators comes from two methods. React, I use ternary operators a lot in React, and like rendering.
Yeah, and I think that's actually an anti-pattern is that. But keep on going.
Yeah, I think TJ actually said something like that in chat too. But then there's another one for like actual TypeScript for like CDK code, like deploying stuff, and it's like depending. Let's say you have to deploy something to AWS, and there's 2 different ways. Like you can in your beta environment or prod environment. I use ternary operators that way. So like if the environment is prod, this is going to be like the address of a Lambda function for, let's say, or else it's the beta one. And then you can, you don't have to have 2 sets of code. But at the end of the day, it is almost like syntax sugar because it's just an if statement. You can just have an if statement that handles that as well. So I don't know. The feature is nice, but at the end of the day, it's not like you don't have the capability of doing the exact same thing in any other language. Get that out of there. Get that out of there.
Nobody knows what happened. No, ain't nobody knows what's going on there. Hey, Prime. Hey, Bisco, you calm down. Yeah, I would love to have some types. I think some types would be nice, but at the same time, I always go back to the same thing, which is Go's simplicity might actually be worth it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe the fact that there isn't some types and it just forces you to do something, everyone just does it the same way, and maybe that's okay. I love some types, though. So I have a hard time agreeing with that statement because I always get to the point of just having a list with multiple items in it, and I don't want to use interface. But I get it. All right, anyways, no enums. Cool. That's TypeScript, known for its excellent enums. No option/multi-value JSON keys possible to express.
I don't.
Optional would be a pointer, right? So you can say, hey, this thing can exist, but it's a pointer. Yeah, are they saying like you can't, like if you had a value, like, right, count is a number, but count might not be there. Is that what they mean? Because can you do a pointer int and it'd be nil or the number? Is that like a thing, or am I like too deeply reading into Go on that one?
If you have a nil pointer to an int?
Well, yeah, because you could imagine, like, let's just say you had something you were retrieving, and it could have an optional count to it, right? Count may or may not be there. So it's a number or it's not there. So TypeScript would be $ number, right? Whereas, would that be like a pointer number? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, an int value. We don't have like numbers, but an int. And I think it would default to...
When I say like number, I just mean int.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Hey, you want to be specific here, okay?
Okay. 32. Okay, I don't need all your bytes. All right, multi-value JSON keys. I don't know what that means, and you have to resort to interface. Okay, that's when so this is a sum type argument again, and to do typecasting later on, which is difficult to read in JSON. Let's see, is big and the code is big. The thing is that even if let's just pretend you don't do this. If you have a sum type in TypeScript or a sum type in Rust, you still have the identical if statement going on. So that's why this is my whole Go maybe can use interface. Is that with interface, you go, switch type. Is it an int? But with Rust, you're like, match thing. It's an int. Right? Like, are you really getting around the thing? It's safer in Rust because Rust has type, like a compiled in, you handled all the possible types. It's exhaustive in Rust, as someone's saying. So I get that. I'm on that team. But is it much different programmatically? Like, are you really making something less or more complex?
I think it's the same thing, just written in different languages. Like, I think a lot of these like little issues exist in Go, in Rust, in TypeScript. It's just masqueraded by different syntax sugar or different, language-specific ways of handling that issue. But I don't think it's nothing...
I know, TJ.
Is that a Tej meme?
It's a TJ. It's a very low quality Tej meme. I'm glad TJ apparently used a photo from 1814. Nobody knows what happened here.
The fonts are different. I love how the fonts, the average Ternary enjoyer is bigger than the average if expression enjoyer because he had to make it fit.
Just a rookie memeing there. I expect more from Teej. All right, we all agree with this one. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. Okay, just beyond JSON, if you have to do JSON validation for incoming requests, then you have to add more and more validation logic using third-party libraries to JSON struct tags, which is a string where there is no type completion or custom functions are just a pain to write. Okay, I mean, fair. Zod is easier to use. Fair?
For this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Fair. We'll give 0.15 fair. On top of 0.15, a little cowgirl on this 15. Here we go. I should probably never say that phrase again because there's a lot of misinterpretation in there.
Yep.
On top of 0.15, if you have also support GraphQL/WebSocket alongside REST APIs and database schemas, then it's an absolute hell and code becomes absolute mess with so much logic and the JSON strings tags on top of that validation. I actually don't mind the string thing as well. So I'm kind of if or on it.
I mean, I actually when I read this point and it's like the database schemas, I was like, okay, well, I don't know. Like I've never I guess I agree with you. It's not that bad the string thing, but I can see that it can be better. I think this person uses tools that exist in like the JavaScript or TypeScript like ecosystem that make it easier for them. And I think that's what he's saying that doesn't exist in Go to handle this. And that's when he's saying the code can become messy or repetitive or anything like that.
Okay. And I'd also say that if, no matter what you do, you have to specify, like if you have a field that's named different, like GraphQL requires underscores and your database is in camel case and WebSocket sends it in camel case, but the JSON, if it comes from here, is underscore, right? And so you have to like put in all these things anyways, whether it's in TypeScript in the struct or not in the struct. Like all the naming still exists. It just exists elsewhere. So I don't really necessarily see it as a positive or bad. All right, no meta framework. This I don't even care. I'm not even gonna address this opinion because HTMX is great. Okay?
I love this point.
Can we agree that HTMX is great?
It is, and I love this point. I love how he's using it because above he said, it's just such a JavaScript thing to say. Like, there's no meta framework that exists. To me, that's such a that's a point they're using against Go. Like, again, 17 is one of these points in this article that actually strengthen the argument to use Go, in my opinion, because there is no meta framework. You don't have to learn a framework on top of Go.
Yeah, you don't have to learn first and also meta framework. I just hate that term, but you don't have to use a framework that uses a framework, right? Okay.
I heard you like frameworks, dogs.
Yo, dogs. Capitalize to export instead of using. Okay, yeah. Can we agree? I don't like that one. I don't like.
I actually don't mind it. I see I don't mind this. I see the point of using something explicit that says like export function or public. Like I get it, but like, are we really gonna complain about just capital M or capital whatever? Like, just capitalize it, and then you're good, and then you're happy, and then that's it. Like, out of all the things to put on a list, like, I don't know about that one.
Okay, Copium. Just saying. We are going to complain. Yes, we are. I hated this in the beginning. Yep. I believe we all hate this one. Hold on, Winchester. Hold on. I think we all agree that one's awful, and I think you're wrong. Okay, so we'll go on this.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah. Poor generic implementation. Fair. The generics aren't complete. I know last time I looked at them, to be fair, I only looked at them in 118, and you couldn't do pointer receiver generics. And so, fair, not arguing that one.
Yep. Generics are just really, really strange in Go, and it's weird.
They're very limited. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I understand why. I think I do, due to because pointers and how functions are called and all that is probably very dynamic. So you add a lot of dynamic dispatch on top of it, plus then trying to do generics. I think it kind of, I just try to imagine what would that look like in C, and I just can't imagine it. So anyways, no default function arguments, no optional functional arguments, only variadic possible.
I mean,
I
disagree. I don't. I think it's good that you don't have optional arguments, if I'm being honest. Like, yeah, I kind of like it. I like the fact that you don't need to have any object. Like, you need to define, you need to be explicit, and you have to pass things to your function. You can't not pass what you define. The contract is very distinguished, very definitive between the caller and the receiver. I like that. To be honest.
Very brave of you to have such a bad opinion. All right, no error stack traces, as errors are not thrown but returned, and you'll have to accumulate and build an entire stack on your own. And let's see.
I disagree with this.
Yeah, I don't think this is the same, because let's just face it, most people that look at a stack trace look at the last item in a stack trace. Mm-hmm. And the only times you ever want more additional information is often when you're doing something yourself. Now, I mean, there is the rare case where something happens deep inside the system and you have to go debug a third-party library, and stack traces are really nice then. But typically, the third-party library returns exactly what happened anyways. Feels pretty easy. I don't know. Not a thing?
I like how this person just earlier in point 17 about the meta framework, and I know they're different, but said like, oh, like Go doesn't have this meta framework external party, and now they're saying, oh, well, you need a third-party library tool for proper stack tracing. It's like, buddy, you use JavaScript and TypeScript. You're using third-party libraries to create carousels and to enlarge an image. Like, come on.
I'm on this team. All right, let's see. No try catch finally, and throwing named errors is most main okay. So obviously this is just a bad. I think we can all just move on. That virtually nobody likes throwing errors.
Yes,
it's the worst design pattern of all time.
Agreed. I don't have to say anything.
Okay. Stir convert is the stupidest thing ever thought.
Who hurt you?
I'm going to say that saying stir convert is the stupidest thing ever thought is the stupidest thing ever thought. I just want you to know for a second here. Let's just play a little game. Let's play a little game called What Does Node Do? Okay, we're going to do parse int. I'm going to pass in an empty string. That's
Rock's about to make a whole new event called What Does Node Do?
I'm going to do number. Pass in an empty string. 0. Which one do you want to choose today? I don't know. All right, let's try this again. Number. 07 foo. That's not a number. It's just not a number. Okay, we can all agree that's not a number. Parse int. That's actually 7.
It makes sense to me, okay?
I'm just saying, stir convert maybe isn't that dumb. Just maybe there's something to it.
You don't get it, okay?
This is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. Are you ready for this one? Parse int. 0.05. 0. 0.005. 0. 0.0000005. Okay, there, tough guy. I get it.
I get it. You just don't get it. You just don't know how it's used.
Skill issue.
Okay?
It's a skill
issue. I get it, and the real ones know. Okay,
the real ones
understand what's happening.
Whatever. But here's the best part. Are you ready for this one? I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna go like this. I'm going to put little parentheses around this, and I'm going to go like this. String. It's still the same answer, right? I'm going to go to number.
The threads are going everywhere. It seems like there's two complete different people created these two methods. Like, two separate teams entirely, like departments.
Ain't nobody understand this one. I get why it happens, but nonetheless, it is crazy. All right, you can shadow global functions and will get surprising results directly in the runtime without any errors, as globals are overridden, i.e. len function can be overridden. Okay, I fair if that's true. Big if true. Okay, then I agree. You shouldn't.
You can.
Should be.
You can also kind of do this in TypeScript too. Like, I validated this on stream. Like, there are like keywords that you can overwrite in TypeScript or JavaScript, and they will be handled as variables or constants. Not all of them, because I'm pretty sure Go allows you to rewrite any keyword into a separate variable or constant. But I tried to do it in TypeScript. Majority, you can still do it. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, to be completely fair, I can also just like JSON.parse equals function.
Whoa.
So I mean, you can kind of go wild.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not like it's a zero. This is not some sort of like one can only do something bad and the other can't. Okay, I can edit prototypes. I can go deep on the JavaScript. Okay, we can go deep. All right. Magic init method. I agree. I think init was a mistake because it makes testing really hard.
So I honestly, the magic init method, like why? But why does it make testing hard? Like what's so bad about it? I couldn't.
If you do it a default value on a module, right? So there's some default values that are set up, and then you start calling into functions, and maybe some state gets oopsie daisied and gets changed a little bit. Every other method now or every other test could have some weird kind of default init values that they maybe aren't expecting. You now have built in a state machine inside of testing and stuff like that. I think there's like a little bit of careful when it comes to init. You know, I just a little bit careful. I prefer just know that it can have some weirdness to it.
Okay.
And
okay, sure.
I do also agree that in the main function, init it's nice.
Yeah.
All right, slice capacity gotcha with pass by value versus reference. Can you explain this one to me? As someone who's a layman.
Well, what do you mean? So, like, I'm
asking you, what do you mean? What do you mean when you say this?
I'm asking what do you mean? Which one of us doesn't know what the other person's saying?
No, okay, so this is kind of like I'm not super strong at Go. So in my head, a slice is a pointer into an array in which has a length that has a length associated with it. So you can, in my head, a slice would be something that does not have capacity, and it does not have. Okay, so a slice does have capacity and length. So I think I just have these things incorrect here. Hold on. Append in the case input and output variable are different. Slice has both length and capacity. Okay, so slice is effectively the dynamic array. An array can have many slices pointing to it. Okay. You don't pass slice as and slice since it's passed by reference by default. Okay. The main thing is about ref versus value pass, particular method receivers. Oh, yeah, but method receivers, I get that, but he's talking about slices particular with passing by ref versus value. So that's what I'm trying to get is I don't really know the terms quite well for Go and what they call slice versus what they call an array. Slice is sugar on an array. Okay, slice is the dynamic array. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So when you do something like length, let's see, equals elements and slice. Yeah, it's a dynamic array. All right, so if I take a dynamic array, I guess this is a question for everybody, just so I can maybe better understand this whole thing. Okay, can we just agree that maybe I can be the dumb one here? Let's see.
No, I'm the dumb one. That's my role here. That's why I'm hired to be here right now.
Right. I go like this. Right. So is that not valid Go? Are we not doing valid Go? Int is not a generic type. Oh, come on. What's the way to create this thing? Do I go like this to create the thing? I know there's a way to do a literal, isn't there? Can you not do a literal? Do I have to do that whole like make int? No, not map string. Come on. All right. Right. So then if I go A, doesn't B, B has some sort of, can't I do some sort of 0 to 5, some sort of syntax like that? Or is it 0, 5? Right? Is that fair? Is B a copy or a reference? Why are you muted? You muted yourself, Melk.
Hello?
Hey, hi. It's a copy of A. It's a ref. Oh, okay. People are confused whether is it a copy or is it not a copy?
It's a copy.
Okay. So, and then if I pass either A or B to a function, it's passed as a reference, correct?
If you pass B into a function?
People are saying bro is sleeping. Okay, people are saying, is it a copy or not a copy? Damn it, people! Why are you guys being this way?
Now we're in a huge debate. I think this proves the Reddit point that this is messy.
Okay. Reddit point proved. Nobody knows what it is because I just simply haven't played with the array versus slice business, okay? I thought it was a reference. A is pointer 1, length 1, this one. B is pointer 1, length 2, cap 1.
It's a ref?
Or reverse, I forgot. Okay, maybe there's something that. Okay, now I just need to go learn the actual language a little bit better on this one. Are references into a window of the underlying array? Correct, but then what happens if you add? Does that mean I can append on B? Can I go B equals append
I'm
B
fairly sure it's a
one?
copy. Like I'm
Where does that
fairly
go?
sure.
Does A get appended to as well? And where does this one get appended to? Does it overwrite part of A? That's what I need to know. So that's what I don't know, which is which one it's doing. And since chat is literally giving me many different takes here, we're just not going to do it. It's a freaking reference. No, okay. I think the problem is that we may be using, it's a copy. I think it.
Append is a copy.
Whatever. Oh, we'll figure it out later. We're going to figure it out later. I'm not even looking at you guys anymore, okay? You guys are all stupid, including me. I might be the stupid one here. Easy to shoot yourself on the foot. Classic on the foot shot.
On the foot.
With Go channel/routine by getting a deadlock or out-of-hand Go routines. The compiler does not, yes, of course, race conditions are never prevented. This just happens. There's no typing like an arc or something that enforces it. No send.
This feels like a user issue, like literally a skill issue. This one reads to me as like a skill issue without properly setting and closing your channels. Like, obviously, you can have some serious issues and deadlocks, but I mean, in Go, like it's the easiest thing to do this in. Like, I think out of all languages, Go is the easiest one to just define your Go channels, put data in there, put data out, close them at the end of a function, defer, all that. Like, it's very baked into language. So
yeah,
I don't know. This definitely seems like a skill issue.
I would say that Go by far is the easiest async like mental model of all time. So I'm a little. I mean, the only thing that makes Rust a little bit better is that it forces you to use a mutex anytime you want to access or mutate a shared resource. So that's nice. TypeScript, it just doesn't have more than one. It's single execution. I say that very specifically because it can still be multiple. Threads going on underneath the hood, but it's single execution. So there's no such thing as a mutex, right? And you don't. What are you doing? All right. Let's see. No more on the foot shooting. On a lesser note, no map filter reduce. That's coming, right? That's a part of that is either a part of things or is coming, right?
That came out in 21. The baked-in library has methods for slices for maps that have these like quality of life functions, which was the same. Like the version before introduced min and max quality of life functions, and I think they added standard libraries for handling this as well.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought this was relatively, and when I say relatively recent, I mean in the last 6 months, which is definitely longer than 17 days ago.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely. Math checks out.
Okay. Async communication and interrupting the parallel operations is not easy. No promise, all race, all settled. I mean, there's wait groups, right? That's pretty much what you do.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think that's very hard. I mean, it's just like a function. Promises are PETAs. They're not great.
No, but I mean, it's a primitive, right? The wait group is a primitive that you can just kind of control and stop and pass into the knowledge, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say that
you can't interrupt.
Skill issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Creating non-trivial higher order function that can satisfy the type system, again, beyond trivial case, you wouldn't understand a real girl, is not easy as the type system is too rigid. Hence, curring/partial functions are very difficult to get right in Go, even though it is a functional language. It's not
It's not a functional language.
It's a first-class function. Functions are first-class language.
No, Go is officially a functional language now.
Rex.
Like starting since 17 days ago, Go is a functional language.
L plus ratio plus Go is a functional language.
Yeah. OCaml has some competition officially.
Go promotes imperative and mutable code patterns by passing pointers for a functional language, which makes code predictably harder. First off, I love imperative. Okay, I'm going to just throw that out there. I'm an imperative fanboy. I do wish it was mute was what you opt into versus mute or read only is what you opt into. I do prefer that pattern. But to me, this is just, I mean, I'm not really sure where to go with this one other than, yep, that's the paradigm they wanted.
Yep.
They just chose that one.
It's the same point with the OOP and like the porous OOP implementation. Like that's not out, like this is the way it was designed. The other one's like it was designed not to have that.
Yeah. Mocking for tests is also clunky and not pretty. second part, bizarre. First part, maybe true. I guess I haven't done enough testing to know.
I don't agree with this. Like I think testing, mocking is very, very kind of nice to do and handle in Go, honestly. You could create a bunch of mocks for a bunch of functions. You could pass in where to get the reference for your mocks, and then they're easy to use. You create fakes, all that. I don't know about and testing is like built in. It's very nice. I don't know. This one, it's pretty and it's not clunky. So just fully disagree with this testing one.
Yeah, the pretty part's kind of funny. I don't really understand that one. Okay, anyways, let's see. And that's it. The only good thing are easy parallelism with foot guns. That's a good thing. Compiled to binary, more performance, low RAM. I think in Go, let's see, everything related to Go runtime, but most things are aesthetic features or missing in the Go language itself are pure inconveniences, which is a shame. TypeScript is just insanely superior to the Go type system, and it's just very difficult to like Go, even though I know the language. I just enjoy writing TypeScript a lot more than Go, and get very, very surprised when Go developers say that Go is the best language syntax type system. No one says Go is the best type system. No one has ever said that.
I don't think anyone has ever said that, ever.
I've never met someone that's like, you know what the best type system there ever has been?
In Go.
Go. The one that comes with a box of Crayola crayons.
Yeah. Go has the pass for having type safety, but it's one of the lowest level of implementations. It's yeah, on paper, you have type safety, but it's not too advanced. It doesn't have all the sugar that really make it, very nice to handle and get very exotic with. It just has it to be in the club that this is a safely typed language.
I'm going to just tweet that one. Just tweet it all. It's a perfect tweet. It's a perfect tweet. All right.
TypeScript is just insanely better than Go in every way. In every way. Literally.
Way. So overall, I'd say that this is a great example of when you program a language, you don't want to go into the language trying to make it the language you know. You use the language you know as a stepping stone, right? Okay, I know what classes are, but this thing does these structs plus pointer receivers. Okay, I see how that. Okay, so it does it this way. You use it as a jumping, as a stepping stone. You don't use it as a lens you look at a language in, right? And so I find that that's how I like to learn, though, is that I take the languages I know and I try to apply it to the language I'm attempting to learn. And then I slowly over time try to do it in their way and try to learn their way of doing things, because ultimately that's where you're going to get all the convenience from. And so, I don't know. It just seems strange that you just can't make Go TypeScript.
I wish this person, if they went through a different kind of route, could have actually made a really strong argument here. It's not necessarily that TypeScript is better than Go or even vice versa, but the pros and cons of both languages, right? And you could have had a list of these are the great things about Go, here are the bad things about Go. You could do the same with TypeScript, and you could have had an argument yeah, you know what, based on this, I would use one language for one purpose. Or if you're programming and you have to use, I don't know, Go routines or whatever, you can use Go and stuff like that. But this is just very here's 32 reasons I can just think of that are just programming level, just high level programming points. I'm just going to write and try to spin as cons for Go.
Yeah. Anyways, it's pretty fun. I think it does point out JSON's kind of a pain in Go. There's some things that I don't like about JSON. It's not. But to be fair, JSON literally stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is obviously going to always have the best support in JavaScript because it literally is JavaScript.
Yep.
Literally, it is JavaScript.
The JSON one, yeah. The nil pointers, the references, and the advanced type safety that, the no enums, the lack of good generics. Those are all very fairly valid points that you can't really argue against. But it's kind of how much of a lens of JavaScript are you looking at this, right? Are you giving Go the fair shot of defending itself?
Agreed. Well, Melky, oopsies. I just exposed our chat to everybody. I knew I was going to do that. I knew it. I knew I should have switched, but I didn't. The dick pics are out.
No. Remove this. This has end the stream. This is... I need to get my PR team on this right now.
You should.
Right now.
I hope they're not written in Go. It's insanely...
They're not. I don't know Go. I don't know
superior.
Go. I'm actually a Rust developer. So this whole time, just masqueraded as a Go developer.
The worst part of JavaScript is it can't easily use Go's encoding/gob encoding format. It is very annoying that they can't easily do that. They should just be able to do that. All right. Anyways, well, hey, thank you very much for this. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Prime. I appreciate this. I liked the 32 point. I wish I could tell people the back and forth we had about like, are you coming onto my stream? Are you coming onto my stream?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll see you Wednesday. I'm like, I'm coming back Thursday. Wednesday? I can't wait for Wednesday.
It kept happening. I don't know how many times we missed each other. All right, are you ready? The name is the Melkey.